when we celebrate and we eat, and this is how Africans operate. Used to sing during the evening when we were having our mbaulas there, and then we did all what we did. But coming back to what we are made to celebrate today, Heritage Day. Did you hear the speech of the president?
I don't listen to him anymore.
Yeah, sometimes you help yourself by not listening. I was listening to the speech and I said, how can a man from Shawela say these things that he's saying?
Of a vendor.
Man. How can he say these things that he's saying?
Hey,
how can he? How can you even on a cultural day talk about using culture to reconcile? Culture is not there to reconcile. It is not there.
You know that's one of the problems that are there is like your December 16 reconciliation day. Who's reconciling with whom?
But here's my problem with the setup of the GNU, whether you look at it now or you look at it in 1994. In 1994, we were in the GNU with the real oppressor, the National Party. We were in GNU with them. Right?
True.
Now, the National Party transformed into the DA. Now, we are in GNU with the DA. And the DA is a product of the National Party. So the DA does not change to be the oppressor. It remains to be the oppressor. And we don't see the DA as an oppressor because it's a white organization. No.
Followed by most black people.
Exactly. That's not how we see it. We're saying assess their ism. Assess their ism.
Who would take over? I want to go to Banyaza, I want to go to Paul to be able to say, are we finding them as the right people to be able to do that?
Paul is finished. Paul is done. He's done.
What do you mean is done?
No, Paul is done.
Hey.
What they are raising around him, he can never survive.
And of course, welcome to the Radical Conversations. That is a beautiful day indeed.
Good afternoon.
In this cold.
Hey, we don't know whether it's summer, whether it's winter. It's a crisis. Our weather is like South Africa.
Our weather is like a woman.
Hey, man. In all the moods.
And to our viewers that keeps talking, it's note and it's giving solace for we are doing a good job.
Yeah, indeed we are.
And some people say we are addictive.
Of course, we should be.
Are they addictive Radical Conversations?
Yeah.
We just come from a month that is defined as the Heritage Month.
Sure.
And there are a number of things that comes when one is to think about heritage.
Sure.
One, if you were to celebrate heritage, what would you celebrate?
Currently.
If it would be said that people must celebrate their heritage.
Okay.
What is heritage?
Heritage is what you are. Your history, where you come from.
Your roots.
Your roots.
Okay.
The people that surround you. Your country. Until you celebrate those things, heritage cannot be celebrated. And for you to celebrate a country, you need to celebrate an identity. And an identity cannot happen unless you have land. Otherwise, these other things, you are just being co-opted into somebody else's business. Because South Africa, I don't want to say South Africa is a country. South Africa is a location. But the country that is located south of Africa, called South Africa, the majority of the people in South Africa who happen to be African and black in particular, those people can't celebrate heritage. Because how far can you go with your heritage? You can't go to Shaka because Shaka has a distorted heritage, because some people give us a history which is distorted. Until we fix that, when we understand where Shaka comes from, we understand where we come from, we celebrate the Khoi son and the two people that came. Until we do that, and we can never do that unless we have the land, which is an identity. And by the way, we change this thing called Republic of South Africa
to something else.
To something else that we can relate to. You can't relate to what your master has determined for you. By the way, while we are talking like that, do you know that in the entire Africa, there's only 7 countries that have changed their names after colonization?
Wow.
Only 7. I was surprised.
Out of 54.
Out of 54. I was
The
actually
whole 47.
Yeah.
They could not.
I was actually surprised to learn that the 120 million of Nigerians, Nigeria is a name that is not authentic.
Niger area.
I didn't want to go there.
Area. Yes.
Yeah, I didn't want to go there.
Yes.
But when they go up and down here and they say we are proud Nigerians, they are actually not talking about the place that
their true identity.
Yeah, it's not their true identity. They still need to have a true identity.
Yeah, it's something else. Another thing that I want to raise also on heritage is, I'm looking into the word heritage. What you can inherit.
What can you inherit?
What you can inherit. What is your heritage? Our heritage should be diamonds. Our heritage should be the gold, the uranium, the platinum, and everything that is in our provinces. Our heritage should be the lions, the top 5 animals that we are able to, the big 5 that we are having. But none of these are owned by us.
In fact, Ndate Malungana, what would stress you a lot, we actually go and name our clans in terms of these animals that we relate to as Africans, but in terms of ownership, we can't even enclose a lion and own it. It's owned by someone else.
And in the previous times, you see old pictures of our Ethiopians and
taming these lions,
taming them and hyenas, and walking with them,
and even going to war
with them.
So yes, and we are not yet there. Like I'm saying to you, Thabo Mbeki once made a very good speech. Unfortunately, that poem of him had a lot of flaws that I don't want to talk about. But there's one thing that is good that he said, I'm defined by the rivers and the mountains. He owns none. He owns none.
In the mountains and where the rivers are passing, which becomes sacred to African people, most of us, we do not own these passages to these mountains.
We can't even get into, because they've been sold, they've been given to people who have made them a private land. You have a private land in a land of somebody who does not own land.
And graves of our ancestors are also there.
Exactly.
The
drawings of our ancestors are in the caves that people have privatized as their own caves.
Yeah. You know, I don't know why there comes this Xhosa code that says Zemkili nkomo magwalandini. Zemkili nkomo magwalandini. Let's talk about the colors that they choose to associate ourselves with. Out of interest, I looked into the blue, what Botswana are wearing. And when you go and research this, these are the domestics of the Germans on what they wear. So when Botswana wears these things and identify them as culture, it then gives you an idea. So the Botswanas would be the servants of the Germans.
Sure. That's how deep this thing is. Unfortunately, people who didn't do particularly go and read history, they wouldn't even know. They wouldn't even know. For them, it's just clothing. For them, it's just a color. For us, it's not. For us, it's not. How do you relate to the color of the soil of Africa in terms of your clothes? Because these things are sacred to African people. African people are people of rhythm, of song, but also of deep culture who relate. We don't relate to a God that is naturally internalized only. We relate to a God who's internalized and externalized at the same time. The God that takes us back to our nature, because our nature comes from the soil. So we don't just exist. No, we don't.
So let's talk about these colors, because now you begin to think Moshweshwe.
Sure.
Kasishweshwe. Moshweshwe, the Chinese comes to Lesotho and they give King Moshweshwe the blankets.
Sure.
And the clothes.
Sure.
And because they are seen there, they are called Sishweshwe. But in Lesotho, there are no factories that produces these blankets. There are no factories that does these things. So it becomes a business. So is every other culture. Because whether Shibalani of Chitsonga, okanye izinto ezinxitywa ngamaXhosa, okanye zamapedi and Mandebele and all these things, when you look at their original, to say, where are these beads coming from? Where are these clothes coming from? These colorful clothes? What happened to our ancient parents? What were they wearing? Because this is different.
Even if they were wearing clothes, right? Those clothes would have directed them. Let me give you just an example. Look at the flags of Africa. You cannot miss the color green.
Yes.
You can't miss the color black. You can't miss the color gold. You can't.
Yes.
What are they saying, these colors, to us, besides relating to the minerals? What else are they saying to us?
Spirituality.
Exactly. How do we link with these colors? How do we... Now, let's go back to the issue of Moshesh. You know, even the Chinese didn't only give him the blanket. Mudianyewe is not a Lesotho original hat. It's a Chinese hat. Yeah. If you look at the shape of Mudianyewe,
yes,
and you look at the houses of the Chinese, even in today's Chinese films,
they are the same.
Movies, you will see that what is the origin of Mudianyewe.
Yes.
So it's not something that the Chinese, that the Lesotho guys started. But yes, once they adopted it, one would have been intelligent enough to say, here's a business. The Chinese have brought this blanket. By the way, this blanket that was brought by the Chinese, do you know that Lesulanka, this blanket that is that we are fighting about, do you know that Lesotho people are now killing each other for this blanket that is not even their original manufacturing?
Yes.
So it's a problem.
It is a problem.
It's a problem. Anything, you go to the Xhosa. You go to the Xhosa and then utolumubaqo. It's a very thick wool that they create for abafazi namadod. What will always surprise you when you look at how Africans' heritage have been depicted? We are depicted as a people. Male wear almost the same clothes as females. And that has never been our culture. That has never been our culture. Tetana, Litsia, Aditwan. Because they should separate the sexes, and this is a deliberate separation. But as we evolve and these things of Europe are added to us, they start to create this thing. It's not like we didn't create wool. We did. The first people to create wool are actually Egyptians. But what did we do with the wool? Is what the Egyptians are wearing, this Muslim Arabic clothing. Is that what Egyptians naturally wore? I doubt it is. I doubt it is.
What were they wearing? The Kemet.
The Kemet people, they were not wearing the long dresses that are synonymous with. No. There was a plain separation of men and women.
Like your skirt-like things.
Yeah. Remember, we gave civilization. They took it, they put it in a book, they brought it back,
and they changed a number of things.
They changed a lot of things. Fundamentally, the things that they couldn't change is the designs that we had. They couldn't change that. In fact, they adopted some of them. If you were to look at how Europeans used to wear while they were in their caves,
The Caucasians, you
The
mean?
Caucasians, I mean the Caucasians, yes. I mean, I don't know whether we describe the team of France as a European team.
It can't be.
It can't be. It's an African team. Mbappe is an African guy. We shouldn't even describe it as a European team. When we talk about Europeans, we're talking about plain Caucasians. Whether these Caucasians, you find them in America or you find them in Russia, they are all Caucasians, all of them.
And another interesting thing also that this when you are an African, wherever you are if you stay in India, you can never be called an Indian.
You become an African Indian.
Yes, in America
you are an African American. In Europe, you are an African European. Sure.
So you remain an African.
Yeah. But maybe you must ask Steenhuisen why he call himself Afrikaner, because he's not.
It's one of those things. But now, fast forward. What are customs? What are culture? And how were they infiltrated?
Okay. The first point of infiltration came at the point where our notes, our literature was taken away. When the literature was taken away, there was no written.
It was oral.
Yeah, it was oral translation.
Teachings.
Teachings, now.
Yes.
Now, in an oral teaching, remember, a person who teaches you orally cannot be critiqued by others if he's not in writing. Because I might be teaching something else now. And if you go to Matole Motsecha, you say to him, talk about African Renaissance or anything else, he will talk about it from a different perspective.
Yes.
And you approach any other person. So all of these people that we approach will be having a different version. Now, that's where oral tradition becomes a problem. Oral tradition is a problem. And that's where our culture was
What would become a difference? Because whether a story is related orally or it's written, remember also that when the hunted is relating a story of a hunter, it will always suit the one that is narrating the story. So most of African stories are not written by Africans, and there is an agenda to push that narrative. And the narrative is to make sure that they are perceived or seen as right. So not everything also that we read
is also right.
It's also right.
Not anything that we argue about is also helpful. Ne?
Yes.
It's not everything
I agree.
that's helpful. We can talk about the isms, they are not particularly helpful. But yes, the oral tradition, once it is given, the person who receives this has got his own interpretation before he relates it to the next person. And so by the time it reaches the third generation, the interpretation has completely changed to something else.
So that's why I went back to the customs, the tradition, and the...
It becomes difficult in Malungane to pinpoint the customs of Africans until you go back to African spirituality and start to search, to say, how did we relate to our own creator before Christianity or Islam or everybody else came with how we should relate? How did we relate?
The question also that comes maybe before them, sort of to interject, would be, was Christianity brought to us by Johann van Riebeck's 1652, or it came way before then? Because Leonardo says, the second, says those people knows about God, and their culture is strong, it's deep-rooted. Destroy their culture and their identity, and teach them our God.
Sure. And
from there on, they will look back and demonize their way of living. Then, if you do that, we would have infiltrated them.
Sure. Remember, culture is roots. Now, if the roots are cut, the tree is bound to die because it can't feed. Now, and that's what they did with us. That's what slavery was all about. Slavery as an economic tool. It was never a political tool. It was never.
Economics.
It was economics. Apartheid was economics. Colonialism was economics. None of these things have been political. They were only fashioned by politicians, but the people who actually powered them are economists, and how they teach economics at school. And nobody can ever tell me. That's why I'm saying to you, the isms that we have will not permanently solve the problems of Africa. We need to adjust that ism and that ism and that ism and put them together and create a dynamic ism for Africa. That will deal with our problems.
There's something interesting also with regards to culture. When our people get to transform and leave everything of our culture, there are things that they keep in them. Your lobola. Does not matter how much you have transformed and cut yourself from the roots of your Africanism. Sure. But the question of paying Dori or Lobola remains, and the customs that follows. Why?
Because your spirit will always yearn to be you.
Okay.
Even if you surround it with somebody else. It will always yearn. It will always have a gap. And it will always move things that will make the spirit to move. And it will move it to where it's going. And that's, unfortunately, that's how the spirit of a human being works. Yeah. You cannot erase a human being's culture completely.
There are things that they will remain.
You can infiltrate it. You can confuse it. But there are things that will continue to emerge depending on the importance of these cultural activities. Let me give you an example. Africans, for a very long time that I knew, never celebrated New Year's Eve. How they celebrate New Year's Eve today tells you that they are worshipping yet another demon that is not them.
True.
Right? Our New Year was celebrated in September. Whether you call it 23 or the 1st of September is up to you. But it was celebrated. It was linked to a particular movement of the moon, to a particular movement of the sun.
And
when
nature,
the sun and when the nature operates in this way, when there's rains, they will always tell you that now the year starts.
It's a new beginning.
But go and check the Bible then. When Israelites get out of Egypt in September, they are told, this is the first year. This is the first day. This is your first month. In September. In September.
Yes.
So when they left, the Israelites, they left with a culture of September. They call it Judaism now, but it's not. It's not their culture.
You know, when you speak like this, you are making me to remember, let's say it's October, November, December, January, February, March, April. There's this thing of new financial year that starts in April. Where does it come from? Isn't it part of the year would be ending in April?
Sure. That's, you know, when the year ends with us, that's when the winter starts.
Yes.
And when the winter ends, that's when the year starts.
In Africa.
In Africa. In terms of our own calendar, that has got 13 months. That's how things operated. Unfortunately, we then took the Roman calendar.
The Gregorian calendar.
Whatever. Now we are here where we are.
Now, if one would ask Nje, when you speak like that, what is the first day of the week? Is it Sunday? Is it Monday?
It's Sunday.
When is Sabbath?
Sabbath is on Saturday.
And the Lord says, leave Sabbath for me. Remember me as your God. That means Saturday.
Saturday.
Why are we going to church on a Sunday?
That's when they confuse your culture. You know, the problem is this. If Africans, they were brought the Bible in its truest form, and they were made to believe the Bible in its truest form, it would have reflected that whites are not Jews. And that's the crux of the matter. Whites are not Jews. That's why they've got Christmas. Jews don't have Christmas. That's why they have New Year Eve and New Year's Day. Jews don't have. Why? Because the Jews' calendar has got 13 months. It was influenced by African tradition. It was influenced by that. So the best way they could have done was then to say, let us not push the Sabbath. Because if we push the Sabbath, then these people will start to realize that the Jewish God is actually their God. Currently, we are adopting the Jewish God, but we adopt him because the Bible says.
Isn't this maybe enforced on us? Because like we are now in agreement to say Sabbath is Saturday.
Sure.
And the Lord has given an instruction that
respect it
and set it aside for me.
Yeah. But keep it holy.
But it's no longer holy, and now we go to church on a Sunday.
It's no longer holy. But look at what it is now. So that Saturday. If you relate Saturday to any other day of the week, what is different about Saturday? That's when things happen.
It's busy.
It's busy.
Fast.
Drunk. Everything happens on a Saturday. When it comes to Saturday night, it becomes worse. And who are the people participating on these Saturdays? African people.
Aren't they that is made to behave that way? Like when we were talking about the human behavior and all that, to say,
sure,
when you suppress and keep people busy Monday to Friday, and on Saturday you say they are free, they must do their washing, they must rest and do whatever, and you allow them even alcohol, because
sure,
it was allowed on a Saturday.
It was.
Now what
and
would
denied on a Sunday.
Yes. So then it means on Saturday you don't want to drink like there's no tomorrow.
Sure.
And celebrate. I
agree with you when you say these things were created. They were.
Yes.
If you want to manage a nation to a point that nation becomes self-destructive, this is the points, the pressure points that you push in that nation. Destroy the culture, change the way in which they see their God, change the way in which they relate to him, change the way in which they relate to nature, change the way in which they relate to one another. Because once you take a man who's married and you put him in a hostel, you are actually separating him from the family. And you are replacing the leadership of that family with somebody else.
But why at this point and stage, Africans are not going back to basics? Why are we not going back to basics? Why are we not reteaching family? Because if we could go to a primary school of black people, 98% of the children that you would find there,
sure,
and their fathers are young, are still children, and they are not there. So we are raising a generation, and it's an African, and it's not the way that Africans would raise Banababon.
If that nation is raised that way, check how oral tradition would be distorted.
Sure.
So you eventually Africans will become a no-nation. We are pushing them to that.
We have become that.
Yeah, we're almost there. You know, there's still us who are still resisting. But how many of us are resisting?
Few.
Very few. And that's the problem that we have in Africa and in South Africa in particular. We were taught, when you go, you are told to come to a gala dinner. And you are told to be, what do you call this? They say to you, you must come with a suit and a tie.
Their colors, their theme.
Yeah. When you come with your, when you argue and say, but my African regalia can't then be told to me, you can't say it's leisure clothes. It's not. It's not. And you become, the people look at you, they say, really? Are you becoming this stubborn? I remember one day I was called to a gala dinner, and I came there with not even African regalia, these shirts that Nigerians do. I was there, and somebody said, did you read the invite? And I said, yes. And he said, why are you not in your robe of honor? And then I had a discussion with him saying, this robe, who does it honor? You say it's a robe of honor. Who does it honor? This tie that I must put on, you call it a robe of honor. Who does it honor? You or me?
Yeah.
He couldn't answer. And then
problem.
I said to him, you see, when you see other people, don't jump on them, because you might actually find yourself wanting. You might say, because why do you call this clothing that you say we should? Why do you say I must come with a bow tie? I must come with a tie that I wear when I bow. People must understand what is a bow tie. I wear a tie
when you bow.
When I bow.
Yeah. We are in Radical Conversations, and we are touching on some of the issues of culture. We are touching on some of the things that needs to be clearly explained. Now Africans are seen as, when we talk culture, Ribua Dijo, Ribua how we dance, and we want to display it and says we are celebrating our culture.
Look,
we are a couple of ways. We are this nation. Also, when we are angry, we sing. When we are happy, we sing.
When we are hurt,
we sing. But when we sing, we are invoking things that we are invoking.
We do. And that's where we... I love the Tsonga people. You can't change them to be something else. You put them in ties and bow ties. You put them in a church. You beat the keyboard. You see how they dance. They become Tsongas. Yeah. You take the Zulu guys. You do exactly. You know, there was a graduation ceremony in KZN.
Yes.
And you know how critical our clever blacks were of young people who were going there and doing this Zulu dance. Clever blacks will say, but this is barbaric. I was watching Twitter and I was saying, if this black person who says this is barbaric can be taken into a Zulu rite dance and put in the center to say, this is our culture.
It's going to tell that these people are naked.
Yeah, he's going to say they're naked.
And these people are...
They did something at Spa.
I remember.
They were told, you are naked. The following week, they came, packed the Spa. And everybody was saying, but they shouldn't have come naked. Who told you they were naked? They were not naked.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah. So we have those challenges. When we celebrate and we eat, and this is how Africans operate. Used to sing during the evening when we were having our mbaulas there, and then we did all what we did. But coming back to what we are made to celebrate today, Heritage Day. Did you hear the speech of the president?
I don't listen to him anymore.
Yeah, sometimes you help yourself by not listening. I was listening to the speech and I said, how can a man from Shawela say these things that he's saying?
Of a vendor.
Man. How can he say these things that he's saying? How can he? How can you even on a cultural day talk about using culture to reconcile? Culture is not there to reconcile. It is not there.
You know that's the one of the problems that are there is like your December 16 reconciliation day. Who's reconciling with whom? Because we are being enforced to reconcile. I was listening to the Minister of Land, the PAC leader, Nyotso, and he was talking about land and how they are paying people off and the likes. I'm like, we're not hearing stories that the following farms were given to the people and the people are going to go back. Like the people in Limpopo would begin to do their tomatoes and mangoes and avocados freely now, and these people have grouped themselves and this will become their inheritance to say we are proud now that we've got our farmlands back and we are going to farm and become okay with it, and this is our inheritance. The ZZ2 Muetsi, the white people, the Tsonga people are supposed to say we want to own half of this these lands, and therefore they must benefit our children and becomes our inheritance.
Sure.
So it's the avocados and everything, the sugar canes in KwaZulu-Natal, where your Hewlett's companies and other companies are owning these things, to begin to be owned half to the African people, and the people begin to benefit from them. The Botswana people, where the mines are operating, etc. This would be our inheritance.
It should be. It should be. But it needs a government with balls. I can tell you the honest truth. Politics is not for young people who do not have what it takes. You know this Traore boy? You need people who think in his level, who say, would rather take a step back in order to build afresh and come with a new thing. South Africans are afraid to negate their sunken houses. Black South Africans, they'll never get out of their sunken houses.
Why?
Because they've been taught that an educated, intelligent black person is the one that lives among white people.
But isn't it the question of when the slave is comfortable and not living with the Negroes in the field, the slaves feels that he's a house master and is better. Isn't that feeling?
It is that feeling. That's why I'm saying apartheid has taught them that the only way you can survive is when you are among white people. That is why when you talk middle class, we talk actually black people living among white people earning a particular salary. That's what we mean by middle class. We don't mean black people who have moved out of poverty, who are carrying the whole township out of poverty into the middle class. We're not saying that. We are saying those that skipped the poverty and left it for the rest of the people to come to the middle class. And for as long as our education and our finances and resources separate us from where we come from, then we have a problem.
Yes, this guy, he is in United Arab Emirates.
Sure.
He's excited, and he takes out his Rolls Royce watch and gives it to Cristiano Ronaldo. And this guy is asked, where do you get the money? He says, we in Arab Emirates owns the oil that is in demand into the world. So most of us, we are rich. Most of us, we get to be paid dividends and all that. Now you look into Azania. Let's call South Africa Azania from today onwards. You look into Azania, which has every mineral that the world wants, that has the oil and everything. But you find there are people being poor.
Sure.
And they are poor because the status quo is maintained by the people in office.
Sure.
Is maintained by the ones that are leading. Sure. And as a result, this becomes ludicrous. It's crazy. It's not supposed to be that way. Why are you still having people poor while your country is rich?
I'm going to say something that will frustrate a lot of people. We lost the battle at Codesa. We gave minerals away at Codesa.
Did we lose it at Codesa, or we lost it at Paulsmoor?
No. We lost it. We sealed the loss. We actually signed the loss off at Codesa. But the battle was, you know what is the problem with African people? Is to idolize a human being and not idolize an idea.
Yes.
That's where we missed the point. When we idolized Mandela, we missed the fact that Mandela became because we were. That's what we missed. Mandela became because we were. Mandela was approached because things were getting out of hand in South Africa. So Mandela was approached to say, let's talk. But you remember I said Robben Island was not designed to be a prison. It was a breakdown process. They didn't break you physically, but they broke you spiritually and psychologically.
But let's go back to, we acknowledge what has happened, and there's nothing we can do about it. The question is now, what is it that we must do that must correct these things? You know, yesterday when I was speaking to you, I was saying, It's 100 days on GNU.
Sure.
100 days on GNU. Are we going to correct these mistakes, or we are going back to what has been?
With GNU, we are not going back. We are at the starting point. We are in 1994. Yeah, we are in 1994. We are still appeasing politically the people who oppressed us for over 150 years. We're still appeasing them politically. I'm not pushing for a civil war. I know the war will not affect white people. It will affect and kill black people in majority. But I'm saying...
the same way as wars in Africa are affecting people in villages.
Exactly.
And everywhere else.
Sure.
So these wars are not right.
They're not right. We can't push that. But here's my problem with the setup of the GNU, whether you look at it now or you look at it in 1994. In 1994, we were in the GNU with the real oppressor, the National Party. We were in GNU with them. Right?
True.
Now, the National Party transformed into the DA. Now, we are in GNU with the DA. And the DA is a product of the National Party. So, the DA does not change to be the oppressor. It remains to be the oppressor. And we don't see the DA as an oppressor because it's a white organization. No.
Followed by most black people.
Exactly. That's not how we see it. We're saying, assess their ism. Assess their ism. They say to you, South Africa can only emerge if it's a capitalist country. And we are saying to them, it might emerge as a capitalist country. But let's start where everybody is equal. Let's equalize everybody. Right? Let's go to the United Emirates. What is the policies of the United Emirates? Is to empower the people of
Emirates.
Yeah. Now, now that everybody is empowered, if it becomes a capitalist country, there can be workers and masters.
True.
Because everybody else is a master. But in South Africa, the situation is that there's a guy who stays in a shack on top of a railway line. That guy, when we turn South Africa into a capitalist country, and there's a guy sitting in Sandton who owns all the money and the other one is sitting in Stellenbosch, it means they own even the shack of this guy.
Very true.
Now, if that is the situation, how do we expect that a capitalist country can survive, blacks can survive in a capitalist country, in a country which has got the most unequal society in the world?
But what can make it equal? Because here the people that had 30 years to equalize or to put things at equilibrium, and they could not do that.
We are afraid of young brains that can change South Africa. Whether you get them from the ANC, whether you get them from the EFF, whether you get them from the IFP. But when young people come together and they discuss, they will come with a solution. They will move away from their political ideology and look at what is best for the country. But when you go to a man, Dr. Malungane, I'll give you an example with you driving from Tikhane every day to here, from Hartbeesfontein to here. Do you know that there are cars that when you see at Hartbees on your route, you say, but this one is new, I never pass it. Why? It's because you are repeating the same thing every day. To a level that you start to... You see my car when I go to Mafike and say, this one is...
Yes.
Exactly. Not because you are looking at me, but because it catches the eye. Right?
Yes.
But that routine is dangerous. I always ask a person, and people become angry with me. A security guard who opens the same gate every day for 10 years, does he have 1 day experience or 10 years experience?
Yeah.
He opens the same gate for 10 years.
For the same people.
For the same people. And he does exactly the same. The lock is not changed for 10 years. Does he accumulate experience? Because we call experience repetition. But is experience only to repeat, or to repeat with an intent to add knowledge? Now, if we don't add knowledge, then the experience becomes useless. Now, let me show you how white people organize a car. They bring you to the floor in a car. I don't know whether it's still happening. Maybe they've improved. Me, I put the wheels on the right. You put the wheels on the left. Somebody puts the tail lights. Somebody puts the front light. Somebody puts the engine. Somebody puts the mountains and lock it. Somebody puts the handles. When we are done, that car has been handled by at least 40 people. Can you bring all 40 to develop a car? It's highly unlikely.
True.
It's highly unlikely. That's how, even when even
in a car wash.
Even this, they say you put the neck, the other one puts the hands, the other one closes.
True.
The other one cuts the front and the back, the other one cuts the hands. So even when you cut, you can't steal the entire
process.
You can't steal the entire pattern because you only know one part of the pattern. And this is how they've operated. Now, they go to parliament, we push laws, BEE, we push laws like whatever laws that we think are designed to empower. Now, during the Mandela time and Mbeki time, they never threatened us with courts. Why? Because they knew that the movement is not coming from the anger of oppression. It's coming from the word of reconciliation. So we are not going to move hastily. We'd rather make a straight move than make a straight move up. Now, when we became irritated 30 years down the line, they said, all right, now they are irritated. Let's now strengthen the courts. Now, what's the first point, starting point in the courts? You take the people out that you think are going to be a problem. Now the courts are used to do what? To deal with us. Now the commissions are used to deal with black excellence. Now, the GNU is in a process. Let me tell you how things operate. You become a minister, Gayton Mackenzie. The first thing that you do as a display of poor leadership skill is when you arrive, you want to change the office. You don't want to lead these people that are in the office. You want to employ your people. What was the negotiation? Let us negotiate that when we come in, all the director generals contracts cannot be renewed without an input from the ministers. Right? In actual fact, the DA was pushing to say all the director generals in the departments that are going to be led by DA ministers
should be changed.
What are they saying? When you change a bureaucrat, you are changing the person who deals with service delivery and change.
But also that's where they could also defy you because they understand and know systems.
Sure.
And then there's the results, you would not have power because they will be telling you things that are not there.
Sure. Yeah. And really, if you were to leave a director general as Gayton Mackenzie and you start to give policy that is opposing the policy that is here, he would want to know why. So if you don't want to struggle, you remove the director general. If you want to be in charge of the South African National Defence Force, you remove the general in charge.
Yeah.
And you place your own general. Yeah. And then you are done. So 100 days.
Are we winning? 100 days there, here we are. What are we seeing?
Nothing. Nothing will ever change in the
Malungane.
Unless the old guard, let me put it this way, and people are going to get frustrated with me. Unless the gatekeepers of white monopoly capital are kicked out of government and new people come in with better ideas. Gatekeepers, hakuna mtu dangerous ya gatekeeper. Fundisu security guard. Usifundisi ukuthi engine yemoto is in front and then come with a beetle.
Yeah, this car is not moving.
Yeah, there's no engine.
Yeah,
and we are that. We are good at becoming security guards of properties that are not owned by us. And there's no one as good. There are two people that are as good gatekeepers as you can get. If you get these two people to be the right people, you can transform any country from any type of oppression to a better country.
Let's talk this. That is interesting. Maybe there, as we are going to go towards to conclude. There's a pattern after Mandela. Thabo Mbeki was recalled because there were two centers of power.
Yeah.
Zuma, the same, recalled. Do you think that with Cyril Ramaphosa as seen as the face and the gatekeeper of the white capital, will he be recalled? And if he is to be recalled, who would take over? I want to go to Banyaza, I want to go to Paul to be able to say, are we finding them as the right people to be able to do that?
Paul is finished. Paul is done. He's done.
What do you mean is done?
No, Paul is done.
Hey.
What they are raising around him, he can never survive. They are not yet opening cases, but what they raise around him, they will open cases and they will finish him. Just when he's about to go to conference, which is somewhere in 2026. When he's just about to go to conference, they will register these cases and they will finish him. All right? So Paul is out. Lissufi.
Maybe let's also throw Mbalula. Lissufi, let's focus on Lissufi. Lissufi looks to be looks like he's defying Ramaphosa and his agenda. There they are dealing with Silias in Tshwane.
Sure.
And that is not what Ramaphosa would want. And a lot of times, Gauteng will always raise its own things.
Lissufi needs people around him. He has got a fairly young PEC. And he must stick to that. Right? But he must move along with them to anywhere. When he goes to conference, they must sit behind him
and push.
If they could divide him from them, he's finished. If they can't find you with corruption, they can't find you with tax evasion, they will buy another guy next to you who will tell them, who's your girlfriend? And they will use social scandals. They will finish you. So he needs to be clean. One.
Is that man that is clean? Jay?
Not 100% clean.
Okay.
But clean on the things that can be used. And clean, by the way, by keeping your things to yourselves.
True.
Sure. That makes you very clean. Traore walks around with soldiers. But I want you to go and check. Consistently, there's 2 or 3 of the same soldiers. The rest I knew every time he moves around. Why is he rotating them? He wants to know who's going to sell out. Because Sankara was sold out by his best friend. You see how Floyd dealt with
Julius.
That's exactly how Sankara was dealt with. That's how Lumumba was dealt with. That's a lot of the Malcolm X. You name them. They were dealt in the same way.
Will I be right to say that's how O.R. Tambo was dealt with?
With the closest friend, Nelson Mandela.
Yes.
And he was dealt completely. Now, this is a program. So, Lissufi must also see how he empowers the people around him. They must die for an idea and not for a personality. Once they understand that an idea is better than a personality, Steve Biko says, I would rather die for an idea that will live than live for an idea that will die.
Now let's go then to that thing. Will they recall Cyril? Because the report, for an example, in 2026, the reports that is going to come there, it does not look like the ANC would recover from the mess that they have messed this country. Will then they recall him because things would not be the way they're supposed to be?
I think the ANC on its own has got no capacity to recall Cyril.
If they had capacity to recall Thabo Mbeki.
Thabo Mbeki was recalled by people who knew that Thabo Mbeki will not expose their scandals. Not this one. This one will expose your scandal. Simple, very easy.
But let's talk of the team. Remember, the center looks like it's no longer holding within the ANC. and the NEC itself is no longer united, because others would have wanted the EFF, MK type of, because this is what the revolution was about, black rain, and now this has been changed.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you look at the politics of the ANC, you'll think they are finished. But the ANC has got a stamina to protect whiteness.
Yes, but
it has got a good stamina.
Are we going to say it's stamina, or are we going to say it's the people that they are buying that are able to do that?
Sure. When you get bought, at what stage do you say I was bought? When you die for a revolution, at what stage do you say I was bought?
Yeah.
If you don't say I was ever bought, then it means you were not bought, you sold.
Yes.
There's a difference between being bought and selling out. When you sell out, you don't disclose. But when you are bought, you say, hey, matot, that niggas were 2 million, that is 7 and then I pulled this and this and this. But I realized that our revolution is going to suffer. So I'm coming clean.
What is this renewal project? Yeah?
The renewal project is dealing with political opponents to gatekeeping. Not to gatekeeping, because gatekeeping is a national ANC policy. They don't want to say it's a policy. They are gatekeeping. Now, you remove those that are keeping the gates that you're not worried about. And they are not talking to the real gates that you are keeping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Concluding question, and we call it a day. Won't Phala come back differently to hound the president of this country?
My worry is people are saying Phala is going to come back as if Phala went anywhere. Phala is here. He's on the table. He's on the table. You remember what Zil said? We will nominate Ramaphosa and support his candidacy as a president. And we will not vote that Phala must come back. Phala is back. And let me tell you how Phala is going to come back.
Do you know why I'm asking this question?
Sure.
It is, there are people in our country, we've got people that tends to be self-righteous. In the sense that they would say John Hlophe should not serve in the JSC because of Stembeni Kunimadod, and leave a man to lead a country.
To appoint the same people.
No, can I finish?
Yeah.
Leave a man who had money in his sofa that he cannot account to, and says he is honorable, he must protect the constitution, and wants to deal with a man to serve on a committee of parliament, not to lead parliament, on a committee of parliament. What a hypocrite.
What a hypocrite. You know where my problem lies with that hypocrisy? When the center eventually collapses, but it will not collapse very far. Maybe people are looking at 2026 with local government elections. No, that's too far. 2025 December, the center might collapse.
There's conference.
People are jostling for power. People are saying, I'm better, I'm clean, my skeletons are a little bit smaller, his skeletons are big. People are starting, you see, what's up hero, they are dead now. They're gonna draw the sofas with money, with him sitting on the sofas. They're gonna do that. They're not done. And there comes a time, and I'm saying this to the ANC people, there will be a time in the ANC that the DA will completely replace the ANC. Not in terms of police, even in terms of personnel.
Unless
the real revolutionaries stand up against gatekeepers.
May I say, as we conclude, unless we raise leaders who are serious about the life of black people, unless we raise leaders of Traore's caliber, unless we raise leaders that will be able to say we will never have Orania in this country, unless we have leaders that would say we will never allow these companies to control us and determine who must be in charge, unless we have leaders who have the interest of a black person at heart.
Sure.
Until then,
the gatekeepers remain.
Being smart or dumb, we are born in this.
And we are here.
And we will die in it. But it is in our hands. We need a new type of leaders that begins to see Azania different to what she has been seen. We need type of leaders that would want to improve the country. We need type of leaders that will begin to say, let the minerals benefit the people, than the people becoming slaves to be paid for these people to make a lot of money. And we need leaders that will be able to say, give the people land.
And you know, we've got organized people who are called organized labor. Why are they not negotiating for 50% of the mines to be owned by workers? Why are they not? Because you can take the Secretary General of any union and parachute him to become a General Secretary of the ruling party. Until we stop that, a man emerges from nowhere.
That's Cyril.
From nowhere, he becomes a Secretary General. And people say, it's a good thing. What is good? What is good? A man with no credentials. You know, Lekota said something. When we were taken to Robben Island, you were told to go home.
And why did they do that?
I'm done.
Until then, Radical Conversation shall continue. Until then, we are signing out.
Thank you.
Please do not forget to subscribe. Thank you so much.